Hello and welcome to Headliners, the show that has comedians review the papers. My name's Dominic Frisby and the experts, if you can call them that, who are with me tonight are Josh Howie and Dave Fulton. But as always, we start with the news, which tonight is read to you by Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening. The top story tonight, the Foreign Secretary says Russia cannot remain a member of the UN Human Rights Council, given what she says is strong evidence of war crimes being committed in Ukraine. The group Human Rights Watch say they've collected evidence of Russian forces committing war crimes in multiple Ukrainian cities, including gender-based violence, executions of civilians and mass graves. The Kremlin denies any accusations related to the murder of civilians, but Liz Truss has urged the international community to strengthen sanctions against Russia.
We need to announce a tough new wave of sanctions. The reality is that money is still flowing from the West into Putin's war machine, and that has to stop.
Well, there has been international condemnation of suspected war crimes in Ukraine. France is expelling 35 Russian diplomats. Germany is expelling 40. The White House says sanctions alone won't stop the conflict, and the President, Joe Biden, called for a war crimes trial.
You saw what happened in Bucha. This warrants him. He is a war criminal. But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight, and we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
Joe Biden, well away from events in Ukraine, environmental scientists are warning that without immediate action to cut greenhouse gases, we'll all face the catastrophic impacts of climate change very soon. A UN report says it's necessary to keep temperatures from rising above 1.5 degrees by substantially reducing the use of fossil fuels. The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, said the world must triple the speed at which it changed to renewables.
The jury has reached a verdict, and it is damning. This report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is a litany of broken climate promises. It is a file of shame, cataloguing the empty pledges that put us firmly on track towards an unlivable world.
Antonio Guterres. Now, here, the government is set to sell Channel 4 television. As they say, public ownership is holding the channel back. A Channel 4 spokesperson, though, said it was disappointed with the decision. In an internal email seen by PA News, Channel 4's chief executive said their priority was to look after all staff. The Culture Secretary, Nadine Dorries, says the proceeds of the sale will be reinvested into levelling up the creative sector. And the EastEnders star June Brown, best known for playing the character Dot Cotton, has died at the age of 95. Her family says she passed away peacefully at her home in Surrey yesterday. EastEnders executive producer Chris Clenshaw said her portrayal of Dot Cotton made a huge impact on British television, which entertained the nation and at times changed it for the better. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you are with GB News. Time now for Headliners.
Thank you very much, Polly. Some textbook news reading there. Hello and welcome everyone to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby. Joining me tonight, we have Dave Fulton and Josh Howie. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you both doing?
Good, mate.
I had written some wonderfully amusing introductions to you both, but for some reason they did not appear in my auto cue. So that's why you only got the names today, so I apologise for that. But I think I've mentioned your motorcycle riding in my introduction. Have you been motorcycle riding recently, Dave?
Yeah. That's how I get to all my gigs, and I build bikes, restore bikes. I'm always looking for a deal, always trying to find the next barn find. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool, but you didn't come tonight, you came by GBNews limousine.
No, I came by Uber, driven by a guy from Kenya, and he was great company. Man, amazing, yeah.
Good. Well, I'm delighted to see that our guests have arrived in a happy state. Presumably you're in a happy state as well?
Yeah, I mean, Oh, you see? Happy to be out of the house.
Well, we all are that. Yeah. Right, so let's crack on and do the thing that we always do first, which is to take a look at the headlines. And we start with the Daily Mail, which I have in front of me here. And it has a picture of our man, Volodymyr Zelensky, looking haunted. Hero leader comes face to face with the horrors of Putin's war. And we also have, I suppose it's the headline, huge boost for women's rights. Equality watchdog rules toilets and changing rooms can be protected as single-sex spaces. Huge boost for women's rights. I guess that depends on what your definition of woman is. But anyway, we move on to the next story, which is the Dave's giving me funny looks. The Daily Telegraph, Channel 4, set to be taken private. That's a story we'll be looking at. And trans women can be banned from female changing rooms. The same story again. On to the Independent, now or never to prevent worst of climate crisis. Now or never. That must be the 85th time we've heard that over the last half generation or so. And we also have the atrocities of Bucha. And there's a picture of a mourning lady who's lost her husband. On to The Guardian. It's now or never. There's a song about that. If the world is to stave off climate disaster, says IPCC, which is an institution that, of course, relies on spreading that particular narrative in order to fund itself, not making any sort of connection between the two. We have Putin must face war. I am, actually, as it happens. Putin must face war crimes tribunal, says Biden. That's a story we'll be looking at, and also Channel 4 to be sold off despite opposition. On to the FT, the Financial Times. France seeks ban on Russian coal and oil as US urges war crime trial. And then there's also City Minister registers shift in tone on crypto with push to create global hub. That's a story we'll be looking at as well. On to the Times. Britain calls for tougher sanctions on Russia. Outsourcing of migrants to Rwanda edges closer. Cool blimey. And now or never, but world can avoid climate disaster, says UN. On to The Sun, and June lit up Albert Square, tears as Ender's icon Dot dies at the age of 95. We'll be looking at that story too. The Metro, kidnapped, tortured, killed for kicks. Just horrifying stuff. And finally, we have the Daily Star. Easter hell days. Wish we weren't here. Airports and roads chaos as family holes ruined, hundreds of flights axed, and ports gridlocked, and worst of all, Spanish hotel closures as they run out of bog roll. And those are the headlines. And so we kick off with the front cover of Tuesday's Times, and Britain calling for tougher sanctions on Russia. Josh, tell us the story.
Yeah, so as more and more evidence of the atrocities that the Russian soldiers have committed whilst they were holding that those parts of the country are coming out, and we're talking mass graves, we're talking rape, we're talking about disfigured, tortured civilians, and this is to see this stuff, and some of it I looked at, and some of it I couldn't look at it, to be honest.
I know it just sounds naive. I just cannot believe how one human being would do that to another.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then you but you wonder what sort of propaganda they're being shown in Russia, where I saw some footage of some just normal Russians, and the stuff that they're coming out with is just like, yeah, who cares about them? They're just a piece of land. They're
Nazis.
Well, in Russia.
Yeah, no, according to the Russian narrative, they're saying they're Nazi.
Yeah, it's
the Nazi, the Jewish president.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, didn't Ukraine kind of side with the Nazis because they were fighting the Russians, so they were kind of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing? Because that's what the Finns were. The Finns sided with the Nazis, when they were fighting the Russians, because we don't like the Russians, and so if you guys are fighting Russians, we're with you. And then,
sure, but 70 years ago?
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's the same thing. So, But that's the narrative. They just pick up on that and
There's more Nazis in Russia than there are in Ukraine.
Dude, there's more Nazis in my home state, Idaho, than there is in Ukraine. So, yeah.
It's great. But so this story is the UK government are calling for basically tougher sanctions. Finally, let's get Russia out of SWIFT. Let's stop their ships, all of their ships in different ports, and let's continue this isolation to make them pay for their crimes.
Germany's still buying the gas. Right, Tuesday's Guardian is leading with the UN warning about climate change again. Dave?
Yes, the IPCC climate report, it says we have to slash emissions now. The world can avoid the worst effects. And, they come out, world leaders and businesses are telling lies. Really? Yeah, news to me. But they've come in, the UN has warned all this. And it's like cyclic, it comes up. I don't know what the problem is here. It just keeps, world can still avoid the worst consequences of climate change, and the transformation needed is affordable, but global greenhouse gas emissions must peak by 2025, 3 years from now, at the latest, and fall by 43% by 2030. 8 years from now. So 43% fall in 8 years of emissions. I mean, this isn't the stock market. I mean, how do you do that?
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's just physically impossible for this to happen.
It's not going to happen. And I'll just give you one basic statistic why it's not going to happen, is that more than 50% of global coal is consumed by China.
Yeah.
And they don't subscribe to the same narrative.
Yeah.
So you're not going to change. It's
that's
even if you... And there's a lot of hot air to this climate change argument anyway. But that's even if you don't...
But even on the backside of all that, I mean, I'm obviously American. I go back to America. And I'm from the Northwest, where people drive the largest, most expensive pickup trucks they can possibly find. We're looking at 6 to 8 miles per gallon on some of these things. And the idea for them to just swap over to electric cars is like un-American kind of bullshit. So they're still flying, Trump flags on the back of their pickups, and because they're in denial about it. How do you convince those people that, hey man, you don't need this. You can get a little bit better mileage on this, or go to electric, or some of the alternative fuels on this, and they just won't buy it. I mean, it's too much statistics. People, they throw all these numbers at everybody. This is what's going to happen. This is going to happen. The ocean arrive at this 1.5. 2030, on and on and on. There's no sexy way to put it. I mean, you need to have a kid. This is what the kid's going to be standing in the water, and now this is what he's going to be over his head in 5 years, kind of thing. But I don't know if fear tactics don't work.
Well, it's that film Don't Look Up, which was on Netflix recently, which was like the idea of what it was Adam McKay film, and there was the asteroids coming to Earth, and it was sort of used as this thing where people, even at that point, with all the evidence, because it's very hard for people to contextualize this in terms of their lives.
There's all that, but the fundamental problem is that fossil fuels remain the best source of energy that there is. And until there is a better substitute, people will carry on using fossil fuels.
But nuclear energy is an amazingly
Can't drive
clean
a car with
force.
nuclear power.
I know, but you can power all these other things they're using for coal to power.
Nuclear energy is fantastic.
And they won't do the back end of that. And then you get all these...
That's a whole different...
You get all these electric cars, like, I bought a Tesla, I'm saving the planet. I'm like, what are you going to do with the batteries when they're done? They're incredibly toxic.
How do you mine all the lithium that goes into the battery in the first place?
Yes.
And on and on and on. Right, let's go. We're not going to solve climate change here.
What?
So let's move on to The Guardian and the latest development in the Ukraine conflict, at least as far as the West is concerned, is that President Joe Biden is calling on Vladimir Putin to face war crimes.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about in the story before. But this also is that it seems like Biden is also kind of saying, I told you he was a war criminal, and now he's kind of justifying it. Like, he said it before, and everyone was a bit shocked, like, oh, wait a minute, calm down. And now that this stuff is coming out, Biden's going, well, hey, look, I said that, and actually, look, it's sort of true. So it's like he's also trying to make a point that he was right, which he is right, but still, it's like, you don't need to sort of go, I told you so.
Next time round, Dave, are they going to elect a much younger man, do you think?
You have to understand, this all came about, Trump ran because Obama made fun of him at the foreign press dinner, right? So he goes, I'm gonna run president. I'm gonna put him out. And somebody said, well, he's already done 2 terms. You can't. He's not going to run a 3rd. So he ran for president to kind of prove one up on Obama, because that's how Trump is. I lived in New York City in the 80s.
I was asking about Biden.
He was a victim. No, I'm saying. So Trump comes in. Trump wins because nobody liked Hillary, right? Trump gets in there for 4 years. Absolute train wreck. I don't care what anybody says. He's huge. He's just
You're not reading the room, Dave.
No, yeah, forget it. You can troll me all you want. Trump is POS. And then, so Biden gets in because Trump has obviously lost the plot, you know? And it's one of those things where, like, you know, the Democrats going, is this the best you could come up with? The old guy. The old guy didn't want to do it. And now he's back in there. He's like, I'm only going to do 4 years. I'm like, no, I'm going to go for re-election. So now the Democrats, okay, we'll bring somebody else in the front runner. And the people they parade out, you just go, oh my God. And so the Republicans are going, well, we're going to put this guy forward. And you're like, really, this is your best thing? The experiment that is the Republic known as America is on a downward slide.
He didn't want to do it, but he stood anyway. Right. The beloved actress June Brown, who most famously played Dot Cotton in EastEnders, has died at the age of 95. And I'm going to read you the first 3 paragraphs of her Times obit, as it contains the most extraordinary, I don't know what...
Jump?
Jump, yes, thank you. Change of tack I think I've ever read in an obit. And so it goes like this. The actress June Brown, who played the colourful Dot Cotton in 2,884 episodes of EastEnders, has died at the age of 95 at her home in Surrey. All right so far. A very bright light has gone out at EastEnders today, but we shall all be raising a sweet sherry in June's memory, a spokesman for the programme said. Brown died surrounded by family. End of paragraph 2, we're okay. As a child, there was nothing June Brown liked better than putting a rabbit in a biscuit tin, gassing it, and then cutting it up. What an odd thing to mention in the 3rd paragraph of an obit.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Honestly, I thought it'd be, you know, I said this earlier, it'd be great is the shot of, you know, this is obviously, everybody's read this, everybody's at the funeral memorial service, and the whole front 3 rows are people dressed as rabbits.
She would be cancelled nowadays.
Yeah.
She'd be but it's for people of a certain generation, I mean, who grew up watching her, she was like a daily, you know.
Yeah, she was great.
She was part of, but she was also, what's interesting was the first time you ever see her being interviewed, when you're like, wait a minute, who's that posh lady? Because she had this like, such a clipped sort of English voice, but it was such a massive jump for like an 8-year-old to see her being interviewed on Wogan or wherever it was, that you sort of like, wait a minute, are you telling me these aren't the real people? And she was kind of the first person who did that for me.
I'm going to defend her rabbit habits, if I may.
Okay,
I'm with you.
You do dogs, do you?
Well, no, only because my dad was born maybe 3 or 4 years after her, and he just used to talk about, they used to catch rabbits all the time in World War II, especially when food was scarce, and they used to catch them in little traps and things, and then they always used to dissect them, and some of them they'd eat, and then they just kind of look at the insides a bit like, you know, we did with frogs in biology or something. So
great. I'm looking forward to reading your dad's obituary. No offense. Not too soon. I hope. That didn't come out the right way.
No, it didn't. He left us 2 years ago, but never mind.
Phew. Got to remember that one.
I've got a show I'm doing all about it, Josh, and I'll invite you to sit in the front row. Right, iNews is next, and the list of COVID symptoms has expanded, Dave.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's now 9. And at what point they just keep adding on and on with this? I mean, it's gotten to the point. I mean, I had COVID at the beginning 2 years ago. I had it, and it put me
Trendsetter.
down. It put me down hard, and my son got it, and it scared us very bad to hear him breathing and stuff. So then, and of course, as viruses move on, they mutate. I am obviously a Facebook expert as a result of all this. But yeah, 9 new. So the new ones are shortness of breath, feeling tired or exhausted, an aching body, a headache,
me
and I get
day.
that. I get that just sitting next to Josh. A sore throat, once again, still there. Blocked or runny nose, loss of appetite. We could all use that. Diarrhea, feeling sick or being sick.
You got that one?
Diarrhea.
You got that right now?
No, I didn't. I did earlier, but I'm fine now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Glad I shook your hand.
Yeah, so
vaccine.
These are all pretty much. If you're British, this is like, well, this is food poisoning and a good night out. I mean, that's all it is. So at what point are you just kind of, well, I think I have COVID. Have you done the test? No, but I've checked a couple of these off. I think I have it again. I don't know. I think the thing is we just got to get on with our lives. We can't afford to lock down again. I mean, the lockdown for me personally as a comedian was this 2-year blip, you know, not unlike, you know, Thanos clicking his fingers, and I suddenly just lost 2 years of my life, and all the things I wanted to do and plan were just gone. and nobody moved or did anything. And all my friends back in Idaho, we're still skiing. I'm like, dude, we can't leave our house for more than an hour, or it's a 200-pound fine, unless, of course, you're in Westminster, and then you can party and have nachos and the whatnot. But yeah, I mean, so 9 more of these? I'm
What's
sorry.
interesting is supposedly
Go
at the
away.
moment, it's like there's the most amount of people who have had COVID ever in this country.
I think 5 million or something.
5 million.
Yeah.
Yet, guess what?
Almost 1 in 10.
No, it's 1 in 13.
We're surviving and we're functioning as a society. And I know, of course, that's down to having the vaccine and stuff, but there was that time after when the vaccine first came out and people were still keeping the lockdown going, where a year there could have been saved.
I tell you, all those backbenchers who stopped that last lockdown just before Christmas, we should go and praise them, because they stopped us going down that path. We showed the rest of Europe. And once one country does it, everyone else copies. And we owe those backbenchers. Right, COVID restrictions have left young children lacking social skills, says the Telegraph, Josh.
Yeah, so that's exactly what the headline is. It's the Telegraph. People are now, things are now starting to come out as the narrative is. I remember you sent me this article, which is about how it was all a narrative, the whole pandemic narrative that has now been shifted, and now people are looking backwards, and people are finally in the mainstream media questioning some of these decisions, and particularly in the one that even when I was at my most sort of blinkered as to COVID and like we got to, it was always like this whole thing of closing down schools, because I could see in my own home that the massive impact it was having on my children. And I'm still angry about it to this day. And I got an email from my school just before I came here saying, by the way, if anybody's going to take off a day holiday on the day before or after Easter break, we're going to report you to the local authority for missing a day's school. And I just thought, how dare you who were dragged kicking and screaming back into the classroom to do your job. Everyone else did their job. All the people working in the supermarket did their job. All the people delivering, everybody else putting their lives at risk. Educating our children, the unions had to be like, no. And even when they finally did start going back, it was like, no, now we're going to explode. The society's going to crumble. Everyone's going to it didn't happen. And it disgusts me. And, all that stuff about how one day's school can be a B to a C. 2 years of school they missed. It's crazy.
I love it when Josh Howie rants. It's
and
we have GBNews.
It's just like, I'm just still traumatized from homeschooling. It's basically really what it comes down to.
I'm with you, man. I only got one kid. I would call him up and go, how you doing? I'm fine. And I'd literally hear the phone off and going, put that down. No, you're hurting. Oh, don't cut him again. I mean, just yelling at his kids.
Trying to 2 + 2 is 4. I had to educate like 3. It was crazy.
They've just shut my youngest son's school down last week because of all the COVID outbreaks. So I'm going to get you on the phone.
Okay, yeah.
Wow.
I'm going to send them a clip of Josh Howie and say I'm going to send them down to have a word with you. Right, we've reached the end of part 1. As sure as night follows day, part 2 is next. In the meantime, watch the adverts.
Europe is in the grip of the most devastating humanitarian crisis since World War II.
The people of Ukraine are facing unimaginable suffering
as their homes are destroyed and their loved ones are killed.
Millions of people are being forced to flee for their lives, carrying only their children, their pets, and the clothes on their back.
The pain, loss and destruction grows by the day.
The people of Ukraine urgently need our help.
Already a vast humanitarian operation is underway. Britain's Disasters Emergency Committee, or DEC, brings together 15 leading aid charities to respond to overseas disasters quickly and efficiently. These charities include the British Red Cross, CARE, Oxfam, Save the Children, and World Vision.
Their teams are working on the ground in Ukraine and neighbouring countries to bring vital aid to those who need it most. If you can spare it, your gift to the DEC's humanitarian appeal will go a really long way.
£10 provides essential hygiene supplies for a person for a month.
£50 provides blankets for 4 families.
£100 provides emergency food for 2 families per month.
It's easy to give. You can donate online at dec.org.uk or call the 24-hour donation line on 0370 60 60 900. If you prefer to send a cheque, please post it to the Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal, PO Box 999, London EC3A 3AA. To give £10 on your mobile, simply text the word crisis to 70150. Standard network charges apply for calls and you must be 16 or over. Texts are charged at the standard network rate and your £10 donation will be added to your bill.
100% of your donation goes directly to the DEC to save lives and deliver critical support where it's needed.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby. With me tonight are Dave Fulton and Josh Howie, wizened veterans of the comedy grind. And Stonewall has pulled out of a government conference. I'm sure the government is devastated. Who's got this one?
I do. Stonewall and 80 LGBTQ groups have pulled out of the government conference over trans conversion U-turn. Stonewall said the LGBTQ community's trust in the government is, quote unquote, shattered. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm with the. I don't understand conversion therapy anyway, and I don't know why. If you have the decision, this is what you want to be, or this is how you were born, and you want to go through this, then do it. And the fact.
Well, Dave, let me just explain to you what's going on here in this particular.
I can feel a rant coming on.
Here we go. This is what's happening, Dave.
By the way, I purposely did this to poke the bear. Yeah. By the way, and getting to the toilet thing. Oh, women this, women that. Just have a freaking toilet. All right, this is the toilet, and here's the individual.
We're doing that in a
get to that.
Let
me just, if I can sum this up in the thing. Now, this isn't about gay conversion therapy, which is being banned, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Pray the gay away. Yeah.
The difference is that this idea of trans conversion. First of all, you're trying to define what trans is, which is a very hard thing to do. But the thing is that children who are going in and identifying as trans, the danger of this banning trans conversion is that you're not giving them. You're not what's called affirming their trans identity straight away. And the fact is that 35% of children who are coming in saying that they're trans are autistic. A lot of them have internalized homophobia. And suffering from depression. Some of them maybe have been sexually abused. There are a myriad of reasons and underlying conditions that might take the form of them saying, I am trans. So to just go in and say, oh yeah, here you are, and here's some hormones. And No. But what I'm saying is that if you are, the danger of this whole banning trans conversion is that those doctors who go in and say, wait a minute, maybe you're trans, maybe you're not, but let's have a look at what's going on here. Those people under that new legislation that's not been put through now could have been sued or stopped from doing their job. And that's what the problem is. And Stonewall, this is what they do, is that they have a big, first of all, there was no debate. Secondly, it was like the EHRC, who we're going to talk about in a second, they came out and said very clearly, this is what the law is, as opposed to what Stonewall wants it to be. And what did Stonewall do? We're going to recommend you to the UN because you're not doing... That stuff has been rejected, their complaint, by the UN that said that's ridiculous. Now, the government have not done what they want to do on this particular thing, and they're going, right, we're going to stop now and you're going to try and cancel the government. That part of the legislation when it came to the trans stuff was very complicated and could have had ramifications and need to be looked at much, much more. The gay part of it is good, and it's great that stuff is...
Simon Fanshawe, who was one of the founders of Stonewall, was on the show with you the other day. One of the things he was saying to me is that Stonewall should probably just have stopped... It achieved its aims, and it probably should have just stopped 6 or 7 years ago. But in order to justify its existence, it needs to find new battles to fight, and the battles get increasingly insane.
A clip that came out today is exactly that, of the head of Stonewall 6 years ago going, well, now we've got gay marriage and whatever, what is our next cause? And saying trans and stuff, and that's how they were going to make money because people were stopping to donate to Stonewall, and this is how they made money. And this is what they've done, and there's that brilliant BBC thing, Stonewall, which looks into exactly what they've done here.
Right to reply.
Well, honestly, I am a binary white guy out of America who is considered too old for the entertainment industry. And as far as my insight on any of this is limited by my own admission. My attitude is whatever you're going to do, get on with it as long as it doesn't cause a murder. Now, look, if you're born one way and you feel you identify with another way, then work through that. Try to figure out that is. Find out, is there a reason for that? You know, do you genuinely feel that you are not this person anymore and you feel more comfortable being this other person? Then all right, then explore that. But as far as like just going to an office, ticking a box and having the thing done, no, that's going to be wrong on a lot of fronts. You know, so is Stonewall trying to generate money and more, you know, followers on the back of that? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It's all down to business. It's all down to making money. It's all down to trying to keep these people afloat. The people who are in charge of all these groups make a lot of money being in charge of these groups. And if you don't keep yourself out in front of that, you don't get the money. Now,
subsidy corrupts. Right, Josh, give us the trans woman in the lavatory story. Another one that you'd be happy about.
It's so nice to finally be able to talk about this stuff.
I think we're talking about this on headliners more than we're talking about inflation. But anyway, carry on.
Well, to be honest, I think this is the most important debate going on in today in our society, because it incorporates so much stuff, including just the belief, or just what do you think of science? Do you follow science or not? Does that trump feelings? And I think that at the core of it, we're talking about truth here. That isn't to say that trans people should be supported. There should be no prejudice against them. But that is very different when you've got two sets of rights here and who trumps who. And now we're at least allowed to talk about it, which is what's happening in this article in the Telegraph, where the EHRC today, the Equality Human Rights Commission, have come out with their report, basically laying out exactly what the law is, as opposed to what Stonewall has been telling people over the last 5-6 years, is that they want it to be, in terms of these single-sex spaces, where places like rape centres, domestic abuse, so that women are allowed to, biological women are allowed to have those as single-sex spaces, not gender spaces, single-sex, biological sex spaces. And that's fine, and that's enshrined in law as the way it should be, and now this has been laid out and sent out to all the companies that have been bringing through these sort of... There's nothing wrong with a gender-neutral toilet, but you need to have provision also for single-sex toilets as well.
I can't stand gender-neutral toilets myself.
Okay, well, no, but it's not. I mean, it's not.
I'm big.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying. But you know what? I'm just saying. And me using that example of toilets seems to be the thing. That's not really what it's all about. It's not about toilets. It's about rape. You know, the head of the Edinburgh Rape Crisis Centre, who is a trans woman, was basically saying that if a woman comes in and doesn't want to be seen by a biological man, but like to have therapy with a biological man, that person is a bigot and needs to be trained to not be a bigot. You're like, no, that person is a rape victim and they need to get help.
Now, what the Equality and Human Rights Commission is asking itself is, with this ruling, does it have the Dave Fulton thumbs up?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Josh in this. I mean, my feeling is if you are...
I daren't be anywhere else in the way it is.
No. If you have been raped and you come in to get rape counseling, and the person there behind the counter is a trans, used to be a man and now is a woman, and if you go, I don't feel comfortable with this, can I speak to a woman, please? They should go, no problem. It's about you. It's not about me. It's about you. You've been raped. You are the victim. So let's get you somebody to get you some help. Because as soon as you start saying like, well, oh my God, you're this and that, then you're taking the attitude of like, sure, you've been raped, but now I'm the victim because you want to talk to me because now I'm a woman. No, man. You know, you made that decision. Great. You're now a woman. Fine. But look, if I'm a woman and I've been raped and I don't feel comfortable talking to you for any reason for that matter. Maybe I don't like your haircut. I don't like what you're wearing. I want to talk to somebody else. They should go, no problem. There it is. Done.
Drama next in the Mirror. Kinder eggs are contaminated, Dave.
Well, I think Kinder eggs are disgusting. Sorry. I think they're absolutely... My son, he goes, can I have one? No, you can't. They're disgusting. So he will never have a supplement.
They're 85p.
Yeah, see, I don't even know that. Yeah. You know, they're 57 children. What happened? Kinder eggs, surprise chocolate eggs, urgently recalled after 57 children catch salmonella. So, and as opposed to the other 1.5 million who ate them are now borderline type 2 diabetic. You know, so yeah, Kinder eggs, you know, big hit on the backside of this, you know, people actually buying this stuff and eating it. I'm not a fan. And they're saying, you know, buy the eggs best before between July 11th, 2022 and October 7th, 2022. I didn't know candy had sell-by dates. I'm sorry.
Also, I didn't know eggs could last that long.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know anybody went, oh my God, hey, is this still good for another month? Hey, is that candy any good? No, kids, here's candy. Good, it's gone. They ate it. That's done. You know, so no, I have.
Here's my Kinder Surprise.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which looks like what's inside of them. So
the world's biggest ego has taken a stake in the world's biggest cesspit. Josh, this is from the Times.
Is this about me? No. So yeah,
No.
Elon Musk has become Twitter's biggest shareholder, now controlling 9.2% of the company. And this is a big deal because Twitter gets a lot of, I'm on Twitter a fair amount, but it gets a lot of criticism for the way it deals with free speech. And they banned Trump famously, but also the way that
But
they...
not the Taliban.
Yeah, but not the Taliban, exactly. And there's hypocrisy there within the people that they choose to seemingly promote with their algorithms and the people that they seemingly censor with their algorithms. And certainly I've seen people who, anti-Semites who don't get banned, and I've seen people who fight anti-Semitism get banned for like ridiculous, innocuous stuff. I've seen people
get banned for retweeting newspaper headlines.
Absolutely, yeah. There isn't a consistency there of their different policies. And then you also have the one that happened yesterday was you had this person basically doing a song that was like a death threat to J.K. Rowling, not get banned, but it did get a lot of publicity and then went on to various publications, finally getting banned today. But initially, all these people sent complaints in, and Twitter came back and said, this does not break our rules of whatever. That is not right. So Elon Musk now has obviously paid notice of this. He put on a poll, I think about a week ago, saying, what do you think about,
But he would have already taken his stake.
Yeah, absolutely.
To take a stake in a company that big.
To take it, well, I guess this was the lead-in to that.
Yeah, it would have accumulated it over many weeks.
But 70% of the people replying to the Twitter poll said, yes, they think that Twitter has a problem when it comes to free speech. So people were at that time going, wait a minute, is he going to start his own particular social media thing or whatever? No, it just seems like, as you say, he was putting the things in now, and maybe now he's the biggest shareholder now. It's 2.89 billion, and that's like 1% of his 300 billion that he's worth. And I guess that's worth for him to get in now and maybe make some changes.
I've got to say, I mean, he owns it. He's not on the board. He'll be able to influence what happens on the board. But he's a little bit dodgy, I think, because, you know, he will have already accumulated his position when he was saying, is a new platform needed? I'm giving serious thought to this. Now, the implication is a new platform, it will be an alternate platform, a competitor. So he's sort of talking it down.
What, you think the shares dropped?
I don't know.
Well, the shares have gone up now that he's...
Oh, sure, they've gone up 20%, but I wonder if he was talking it down when he was accumulating, or I don't know what he was doing. He's got some previous with Dogecoin.
It's almost like he's a genius.
It's a bit naughty.
Naughty genius.
Well...
Not the Asperger genius.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, you know, I'm on Twitter, unfortunately, as well. But, you know, Twitter's not a place. You know, I've had some people try to beat me up today, and I don't really care. And
in real life or on Twitter?
Both. And the real life was my son, and Twitter was on Twitter. But, you know, I got banned off of Twitter because there was a specific person in America who is, a bit of a racist, and he would say things accordingly. And he was a sheriff in Chicago, and I said, you should eat your gun. And I got banned on Twitter for promoting suicide. And I found out...
As opposed to bad dietary practice.
Yeah, and I found out he's the one who reported me. You know, and this is a guy who's saying you have to man up and be tough about this. And, you know, they're just words, don't harm anything. But this guy turned around and reported me for promoting suicide. So, you know, honestly, I hate social media, and I hate the fact that I'm on it. You know, and I hate the fact that I have to get on it, and then I'll look on stuff, and then the next thing I know, I'm down this rabbit hole just looking at absolute crap. And Elon Musk, for him to get involved with this, just seems right.
Anyway, so follow Dave at...
No, don't.
If you want
me.
anti-British stuff.
No.
I'm happy to say that for over a year now, I've blocked Elon Musk on Twitter. So... I love this, Dave. A former Whitehall ethics chief has been fined for Partygate. This is from the Mirror and elsewhere.
Oh, yeah, sorry. you put that into it. Yeah, he did. First Partygate staff member breaks cover to apologize for Rocket's lockdown bash. So the police investigating the Downing Street parties way later than they should have handed fixed penalty notices to 20 of staff over the Partygate thing. Yeah, you know what their notice was? 50 quid.
Yeah.
50 quid. If I got it, it'd be 200 pounds. There was a guy...
Or more than that.
Yeah, there was a guy running a rave party in the East End. He got banged with 10 grand, and he paid it, and kept the party going. 50 quid, and they waited, what, a year, 2 years before they brought this thing
I got
together?
100 quid for cycling on the pavement, and I wasn't cycling on the pavement.
Yeah, this is nearly 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, too little, too late. And people are like, oh, we've had her this and that. I hate this ruling kind of thing. What's good for them is not for us. We can get away with what we want. Oh my God, somebody took some pictures of it, and they still got away with it, and they're still ruling this, and they're still making decisions, and 50 quid is what plebes pay for that matter.
Plebes? I've never heard plebes.
Plebes, is it pleb? I don't know.
Plebes, I quite like plebes.
I like plebes better, too.
Yeah. Right, we're going to take a break, and then it's part 3, the best bit, when we do all the weird stories. We've got crime.
These weren't weird?
Well, they get weirder. We've got crime, we've got space travel, we've got John Travolta. We'll see you in a moment.
Europe is in the grip of the most devastating humanitarian crisis since World War II.
The people of Ukraine are facing unimaginable suffering
as their homes are destroyed and their loved ones are killed.
Millions of people are being forced to flee for their lives, carrying only their children, their pets, and the clothes on their back.
The pain, loss and destruction grows by the day.
The people of Ukraine urgently need our help.
Already a vast humanitarian operation is underway. Britain's Disasters Emergency Committee, or DEC, brings together 15 leading aid charities to respond to overseas disasters quickly and efficiently. These charities include the British Red Cross, CARE, Oxfam, Save the Children, and World Vision.
Their teams are working on the ground in Ukraine and neighbouring countries to bring vital aid to those who need it most. If you can spare it, your gift to the DEC's humanitarian appeal will go a really long way.
£10 provides essential hygiene supplies for a person for a month.
£50 provides blankets for 4 families.
£100 provides emergency food for 2 families per month.
It's easy to give. You can donate online at dec.org.uk or call the 24-hour donation line on 0370 60 60 900. If you prefer to send a cheque, please post it to the Ukraine Humanitarian Appeal, PO Box 999, London, EC 3A 3AA. To give £10 on your mobile, simply text the word crisis to 70150. Standard network charges apply for calls, and you must be 16 or over. Texts are charged at the standard network rate, and your £10 donation will be added to your bill.
100% of your donation goes directly to the DEC to save lives and deliver critical support where it's needed.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Dominic Frisby. With me reviewing tomorrow's papers, we have Dave Fulton and Josh Howie. Now, this is a concerning story. The coldest night in 75 years puts French red wine at risk. The UN said it was getting hotter. Josh,
what's going on?
What?
Yeah, so this is in the Telegraph. So the Telegraph doing a story about wine being at risk is kind of like GBNews covering a COVID story. It's like you've got to appeal to your crowd. And so all the Telegraph readers are probably freaking out buying boxes of wine to cover themselves if this crop does fail. But it is quite an interesting article about how all the different efforts that the wine producers
taken a 9% stake in France.
Yeah, exactly. To save the wine crop. About what they had to do. And it turns out they had to they basically light a lot of torches and then blow the smoke over the grapes all during the night. They did basically the orchards the people who work there haven't slept for like 48 hours because they've just been blowing smoke to keep these grapes warm enough to survive.
Cannons, to keep the frost off. Heat cannons. Where I grew up, there's massive amounts of apple orchards, and there's huge wineries there as well. And they do the same thing. They have heat cannons that keep the frost off. But the cool thing about this is because it is a once in 75 years. This is the year to buy the wine because the volume that's going to be coming out of the vineyards is going to be so small, so low that where you might have 10,000 bottles come out of one particular vineyard, maybe this year you might only have 2,000 bottles. So, you know, I would buy cases and cases of this year and put them away.
Hot investment tips.
Put them away as an investment
Here on
thing.
Headline.
And also the, what is it? What's the dessert wine? It's not Sauterne. It's the...
Yes, Sauterne is a dessert
Sauterne is, okay,
yeah.
Sauterne. I got mixed up with a Sauterre. So the Sauterne wine, when you get these grapes, when they get cold like this, you know, they can get sweeter too, especially if it gets hotter. So this is the year to buy Sauternes. This is the year to buy red wine from that region because production is going to be so low and it's going to be scarce.
Yeah.
Put it away.
Buy some red wine. Get some Kinder Egg Surprise.
No. You're confusing the stories, right?
And use whatever toilet you want.
The Independent, Louis C.K.'s Grammy win, Dave. It's upset some people.
Did you say Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K.
Did I might have said Louis. It would be my instinct to say Louis. Should I say Louis or should I say
Louis C.K. He's like, the whole show's called Louis. Like, anyway, whatever.
I watched it.
I don't mean to criticise him. Sorry.
Don't watch other comedians.
You're going to start singing Sham Sham and the Pharaohs, Louis song. So Louis C.K. Grammy win forces everyone to wrestle with cancel culture's most uncomfortable dilemma. The comedian and TV creator who admitted to sexual misconduct back in 2017 controversially won a Grammy Award last night. The incident was raised wider questions about the divide between art and artists, writes Louis Chilton. So I've worked with Louis C.K., didn't have to, you know, masturbate in front of him, years ago in the 90s, and doing a comedy competition in San Francisco. And of the 20 comedians, like Greg Proops and some other amazing comics, he was the one we all came out and watched every night because he was amazing and he was original. And to watch his career go forward from that was, you know, obviously not surprising. And then when it comes out that he is, you know, asking women, do you mind if I do this in front of you? And then it comes out that like, well, we feel kind of pressure because he had all this power and stuff, even though he asked all the time. Which made me kind of wonder, because he had, on his episode of Louis, he had Joan Rivers on one episode. And I've always wanted to know if he asked Joan, do you mind if I snap one off? You know,
she would chop it off.
Yeah. No, I think Joan would sit there and go, I remember when Robert Mitchum did this, when I did the movie The Swimmer. You know, go ahead, Louis. You know, yeah. So one of the things that, you know, okay, so he wins a Grammy. He beat out Kevin Hart, who had a whole bunch of jokes about not wanting his son to grow up gay. So that was overlooked. And this whole kind of, you know, how he was cancel that. I don't know why he was nominated in the first place if people were so upset about this. And will Hollywood get over this? Yeah, because they got over Elia Kazan, who outed everybody for, you know, being communist during the witch hunt, the Joe McCarthy era things. Yet they still revered On the Waterfront, and he discovered, you know, all these great actors, and so you just kind of. You know, have I heard Louis' thing? No, I haven't. Do I think it'll probably be funny? Yeah, he's a good writer. You know, do I think he deserved the Grammy? I have no control over any of this. My opinion doesn't matter for any on this, you know?
Well, you're hired for your opinion, Dave.
Yeah, but the thing is that I can say whatever I want. And
can I give my opinion?
Yeah, your turn. I don't think he should have been nominated in the first place. I don't think he should have been thrown in there because I know some other people in America who are amazing comedians. And I don't think he should have been put into that.
Josh, your turn.
Okay, I haven't heard it, but let's just say he did what he did. It was wrong, absolutely. He apologised, a proper apology, and accepted that what he did. The question is, how long does this continue, this idea of purgatory? Is there ability to forgive? Or does that mean for life he is beyond the arts or not? If he made genuinely the best comedy album of the year. Now, no charges were ever brought against him, and I understand that there were power transfers, and I'm not saying what he did was in any way right, but the point is that if he made the best comedy album, and he hasn't broken, even though what he did was morally wrong and arguably illegal as well, but there was no charges, then he should win. That's, if it's a meritocracy, that's what it is. But this article by The Independent really winds me up. Even more so, but it's just the most maddening thing of like contradicting itself 1 second to the other, and then. But the thing that it does that really winds me up is it keeps on going about Woody Allen. Oh, what about Woody Allen? And people watch it. You know, mate, Woody Allen has not been convicted or charged of any crime. Why do you keep on going on about Woody Allen? He did something morally reprehensible in his day. Marrying his wife's adopted daughter was morally wrong. But the way that it keeps on going on about it, as Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, those are not the same people who committed similar crime. Woody Allen has not committed a crime. And it really winds me up when I see his name constantly brought in like this.
And so to The Guardian and...
And it's not a coincidence that my son is called Woody.
I had a joke at the beginning of the show about you being a Woody Allen impersonator, but anyway, I didn't put it in.
Sorry.
Right, so to The Guardian and why city-states are better than nation-states.
Well, this is really interesting. I did San Marino, which is the oldest city, I think it's 1304 or something? It's been around for 1,000 years or so.
It was founded in the year 301.
301, sorry, 2,000 years. So San Marino appoints the world's first openly gay head of state. What a great thing. Now, we have had great gay prime ministers in, I believe, Luxembourg and Serbian prime minister, but this is the first openly gay head of state. And what's encouraging about this is that the city-state, it was only in 2004 where you could go to jail for being a homosexual. So that's an amazing journey for them to go on over the last 20 years. And also, when you think where it's located in Italy, where there was an anti-homophobic violence bill was actually voted down. So there's still obviously a lot of homophobia in the region, in Italy as a larger state. But within this place, it's obviously that
it's great. It's a great example. It's a great argument for Brexit, Josh, because it shows how small states are nimble, they adapt better, and they're quicker than these big behemoths.
Okay.
Okay, right, let's move on. The Guardian is next.
I didn't see that on the side of a bus, by the way.
And it seems the British public do not trust the government to tackle crime, Dave.
Well, you know what? Without going into further detail, I have a vested interest in this. Okay, so they don't trust the government to tackle crime, and I think one of the reasons is they go, okay, we see these figures coming up, crime coming up, but you know what? The government's not funding the police either. They're not helping the cops in any kind of way. They're not giving them the latest technological advances regarding, they have these iPads that they report all their stuff with, right, when a crime is committed. And they're really slow. And they're tied in with it. Now,
just so the audience knows, let's just do a quick summary of the story.
Right, sorry, yeah, you probably got through the red piece. The government polling finds, sorry, I got involved with my emotions on that one. Government polling finds a high fear of crime and little confidence anything will be done about it. The public do not believe ministers' promises to tackle crime, official documents seen by The Guardian show. The Home Office documents reveal polling carried out for the government find a high fear of crime and low confidence much will be done about it.
Okay, you've summarised it beautifully. Now,
my personal opinion on this is the government is not backing the police. And another problem is the individuals, the actual public is not willing to follow through on this stuff. Because in Soho, I know for a fact that when people are robbed, something will be stolen off their table, their phone, their purse or whatever, the police will apprehend, more often than not, will apprehend the culprit. Yeah, and bring them back and go, this is the person, right? Yeah, that's the person who stole my phone. Okay, here's your phone. We need you to fill out a report. We need a written statement for this so we can prosecute these people. Like, okay, I'll finally do it. So when they follow up, they call these people 14 days later, like they said they will. Where is your statement? Well, I kind of got my phone back and I don't really have the time. Or here's my statement. Can you come to court? No, I can't come to court right now. So guess what? These criminals know that will happen, so they go back out on the streets and it raises the crime figures because the people here are too lazy to follow through on their actions.
This is coming from someone dressed like Reservoir Dogs, so he knows what he's talking about. But yeah, this is very frustrating because, of course, the government are trying to go, we're amazing on crime and stuff, and people don't believe it. And guess what? They've been cutting all their money for the last 10 years, the same government. They don't get it, and they're trying to pull out these statistics like knife crime was down 10%, a firearm offence was down 9% in 2001. Oh, what happened in 2001? Were people possibly locked away in their homes? That might explain why. Is it great policing and great investment in the police force that's done that, or is it just lockdown?
And another thing, but real quick, is the government is selling off the police stations. Because it's like, oh my God, look how much this real estate is worth. So they sell it off and they take all those cops and they put them in another police station. So suddenly a police station that maybe handles 50 cops has got 120 all using the same computers.
Okay, we have to move on to the mail, Josh, and a trip to the stars could be yours for 40 million quid.
41 million pounds, yes. So, in the mail, they're set to launch their first ever space tourism mission to the International Space Station later this week, which is very exciting for those people if they do have 41 million pounds. This is a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, which SpaceX is also, I believe, Elon Musk, isn't it?
Might be, yeah.
Yeah, so
Jeff Bezos,
and all that stuff. So it's basically a very expensive way of taking a floating selfie. Seems to be, they said that they're going up there and they're going to be spending a lot of that time doing science experiments and all these brilliant things. Really, it's just rich people going, woohoo, look at me!
It's bragging. But if I had that kind of money, maybe I'd want to go to space.
I mean, if.
The Guardian is next, and if you ever wanted actually, we're going to skip that one, and we were going to go to The Sun, and John Travolta has been spotted in Wetherspoon.
Which is, he loves, people don't know that about John. I mean, John and I go way back, and people don't know that he's a big Wetherspoons fan. Like, that's why he comes over here, he flies on his jet by himself, just get those cheap pints in. He's filming a short film in Norfolk, and he was in Morrison's as well. And people sort of went up and went, "Are you John?" And he was like, I suppose he was very nice and took photos with them. And I don't know why he went to Morrison's instead of Waitrose. But it's just that he sent his assistants out to Waitrose during the week, and then he went to Morrison's himself. So I don't know if they were like, "Don't want to go to that Waitrose, mate. You're more of a Morrison's."
So wouldn't it be great if you were in Morrison's or you were in Witherspoon's and you saw him and you started playing the soundtrack to Pulp Fiction? And see if he would get up and start dancing. He was a teenage.
Yeah, I'm sure that he'd be really happy if he did that.
Yeah.
Right, you've got 30 seconds to do sausage water. Who's doing sausage water?
Oh gosh, yeah. In Norway they sell sausage water at football stadiums or something.
It's their answer.
Oh, is that you do? You, Dave.
Yeah,
sorry, mate. You got sausage water. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're selling sausage. Okay, Rancid. Fans horrified as Europa Conference League team sells sausage water as stadium drink. Football fans are up in arms after discovering a team is selling sausage water as a halftime drink at their home games. Norwegian champions Bondo Glunk have been thrust into the limelight this season due to the success in the UEFA Europa Conference League. Sausage water, it's a drink sold for £2.10. Sausage water. Fantastic.
It's not kosher.
But the thing is, if you put booze in it, you guys would drink it.
Right, thank you very much to my guests, to Josh Howie and to Dave Fulton. It's been a pleasure. Headliners will be back at the same time tomorrow with me in the seat, so make sure you're on the other side of the screen. Until then, from all of us here, we...